Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 405 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. Going to be live hacking on some Firefox stuff. Let's get into it. Why delay? Why delay, as I always say? I'll start by sharing my screen. There it is. Okay, so guess what? It's June 11th, 2025, episode 405. Reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I think I know what I want to do today. I think I know what we're going to try and get to, what we're going to try and get up to, but might not go according to plan. For example, I'm going to be looking at a test failure. We might not figure that out, or we might. Who's to say? You're going to be figuring out alongside me as we look at it during the stream. And who knows? Maybe that'll be easy. We can land a thing, and maybe we'll look at something else. Maybe we'll look at a new tab performance fix. But no plan survives breakfast. We'll just do what we can and roll with the punches. That's the first thing. Second thing, the agenda that we're looking at with all these handy-dandy links and whatnot. This is available to you. If you want to get a copy of it, it'll be in a different place depending on where you're watching the stream. If you're watching this on YouTube, the link will be in the agenda. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, it's over in the details section over that away. And if you're watching this on Twitch, it's down in the channel details. I also want to give a quick plug to the episode guide. The Joy of Coding episode guide, brought to you by viewers just like you. This is a utility, a resource for people who maybe just want to know what happened in a particular episode without watching the whole hour and a half, 2 hours, or whatever it is. Craig, you get my joke, Craig? Sorry, I'm just seeing some chatter. The episode guide. If you want to add your own notes, addenda, corrections, etc. to anything that happened during the episodes, feel free to send me a pull request to the episode guide. I'm fairly relaxed about what things I'll accept. If you know of a way to make the episode guide better, send me a pull request. Come talk to me. Chat in the live hacking channel. If you want to know how to chat with me, you can join the live hacking room on Mozilla's Matrix instance, or I'm bridging the Twitch chat right now to Matrix. So if you're in the Twitch chat, I can see you too. Okay. So that's that. What's the news? Okay, well, first of all, I wanted to start off by mentioning something kind of interesting, because I know I had actually, what year was this? 2022? 2021? When the sort of the unified ads, the unified add-on toolbar button was first put inside of the toolbar here, and this was in preparation for getting ready to support Manifest v3 add-ons. We had to build this button, and I was helping with that. And one of the things we did was we kind of sequestered toolbar buttons that traditionally overflow into the overflow button. Those are built-in widgets from add-on widgets, which then overflow into the add-ons button. And for a while there, people were very frustrated that they could not hide this button. And there were good reasons for keeping it visible in front of people. The main one being that we needed a place to anchor permission requests from extensions and to be able to manage permission requests from extensions, particularly for Manifest v3, where it is possible to sort of domain restrict individual extensions. That is the idea there. Well, after some hard work from the extensions team, I think it was, this is now removable. You can right click on that and remove it from the toolbar. And I know that seems really trivial. Why didn't you just do that? That must have been a one-line fix. Guess what? Not a one-line fix. This was actually very complicated. There's a lot of stuff. There are a lot of cases to consider when to make the button reappear. And so we had to sort of chase all those down and refine some things. But you can now, starting in Firefox 140, which is currently in beta, going to release in a couple of weeks, remove the add-ons button. And if you go here to extensions, I guess there are no extensions installed, so I get sent here. But if you want it to come back, I believe if you customize the toolbar, it's like the downloads button. You can right click on it and say always show in the toolbar, and then it comes back. So there you go. There you go, people. The UI was just making it disappear. You'd think it'd be easy. The logic to make it disappear is easy. The logic of making it reappear at the right times, and knowing those right times and sort of auditing and going through all those right times. Not easy. Software is sometimes more difficult than you'd think. So next time you say, why don't you just do X or Y to some poor software maintainer, have a little empathy. Maybe they can't just do X, Y, and Z. Maybe things are more difficult than they look. Actually, there's a video, a YouTube streamer named CGP Grey who has kind of formulated these into laws. Let me see. I think these are very good, these laws. CGP Grey's laws. Hang on, let me just let me see if I can find them. The laws of universal solutions. Yeah, Gray's law. Okay, I think this is a formulation of it. There's almost a law of the universe that solutions which are the first thing you think of and look sensible and are easy to implement or seem easy to implement are often terrible, ineffective, and will drag on and will be a drag on civilization forever. Yeah, there's something to that. Things are sometimes more complicated than they look. All right, well, that's that. Let's move on to this thing. So we've been working for the past couple weeks on that filter adult Rust component, and we got it reviewed and landed in the application services repository. And then I think it was last week or the week before where we got it like embedded properly in the browser, and I put it up for review. It got reviewed, and it landed, and then it bounced. So whenever we land our stuff, classic CI behavior is that like a bunch of tests will run against it, and if you fail one of the tests, then you will get backed out. And I apparently got backed out for causing some failures in this particular test. So I haven't looked into this at all. I don't know what this test does, or maybe I should. Let's see where this test is. Is this a new tab test? No, it's a places test. But we should probably figure out what's going wrong here. So let's try and figure it out together. So I have got a build. I did the build beforehand. I've got a build with the patches applied. And let's take a quick look at the failure log. See if anything immediately jumps out. Uncaught exception in test bound test adult. So there's something that exercises the list. And type error, filter adult, add domain to list is not a function. Aha! Aha. So we'd forgotten a test here. So let's go ahead and update this test. I now understand what went wrong here. Let's go ahead and update this test. Filter adult. So there's this like testing that what does load blocked URL do? Loads the blocked URL, then loads about blank to trigger the end of the interaction. True if we expect the blocked URL to have been recorded in the database as a visit. Okay, so we don't want to remember these particular interactions. Okay. Well, what we'll do is we'll do the same thing that we did in our automated tests, test filter adult, where we will use sign on we want to use sign on to mock out the call to filter adult. So we'll do that. Let's bring sign on in. So we'll add it to our list of things that we'll import. Like that. And then, what did we do inside of our filter adult test? Here, let's move this closer to where filter adult is. Test filter adult, right here. What we did was we used sign on. We had this like with fake filter adult, and what it was doing was it was stubbing out the Rust component and then making sure that okay, I see what's going on here. So that's what we're gonna do. So we actually need to import the filter adult component. that. That's sort of the Rust part of things. I actually don't think we need to import this one anymore. And what we'll do is we'll say sandbox equals sign on to create sandbox, sandbox.restore, and then what we'll do is we'll set up our fake with fake filter adult right here. So we'll set up our stub. Oh, and then we pass it the instance. See, this is a problem. This is a problem. I don't think we can. So this works because of the instantiation that we do here. Because we know that this instance will be instantiated with this fake Rust component, but with filter adult, this load blocked URL thing is going to be using the real one. So we're going to have to do it a little differently. Okay. Okay, I know what we're going to do. We're going to reverse a bunch of this stuff. We're going to not import the filter adult component. We're not going to do that. Instead, we are going to use sign on. Actually, before we do any of this, let's make sure that this test fails locally. Mock test browser, interactions, block list. This should fail. Before I get too ahead of myself. Indeed, it fails. Okay. Not unexpected because we got rid of these methods. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to say let sandbox equals sign on dot create sandbox, and then I'll make sure that when we're done here, we will restore the sandbox. And I'm going to say filter adult. Oh, sandbox.stub filter adult contains, because that's is that the, no, it's going to be is adult URL. Which one does which one is called by the interactions block list? Let's see here. Interactions is adult URL. So is adult URL. And I'll say with args returns false. With args, and this is going to be our test domain. Base domain actually, const test adult site domain equals test adult site. Then we'll say that the base domain is this. Okay. And then returns, we'll also say that this returns false, but with args test adult site base domain returns true. And then we'll load, and then we'll do that. Load blocked URL. And it's already going to be using blocked test URL. So maybe that's what we won't need blocked test URL base domain. That's what we'll do. All right, let's see if that passes. Not so good, Al. Not so good, Al. So let's see here. Let's only run this one. Is it just this one that's failing? Yeah. So if I skip this one, the others should pass. Okay, so let's now figure out why we're doing it wrong. So interactions block list, that was the thing that... Interactions block list is adult URL. It's an adult URL. Else apparently not an adult URL. Some silly logging there. Let's see what happens. Apparently not an adult URL about blank, that's right. And example.com browser. What? Apparently not an adult. Add to store. Ignore a page as the URL is blocklisted, and then add to store. Where is this coming from? That's the thing. That's the thing. Where does that come from? Doc info, URL, register new interaction, tracking new interaction. Where do we say that? Tracking a new interaction. So we enter this block here. Let's set up a breakpoint here. What we're going to do is we're going to run JS debugger. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to set a breakpoint in interactions.sys.mjs. On line 268. And let's go ahead and play. Go ahead. And it crashed on me. I think maybe I ran out of time. Tracking. Checking URL if URL is blocklisted. URL to check. I'm just gonna cover my bases here. And then what was this other? It's interactions. Sys.mjs. Line 268. Maybe checking blocklisted URL docinfo.url. All right. Some redundancy there, but let's go. Okay. Checking blocklisted URL, not an adult URL. Checking blocklisted URL. Apparently not an adult URL. Example.com/browser. Aha. Okay, so let's now see if maybe our sign-on stub isn't working in the way we'd expect. Maybe if I get rid of that, like, I've never, is that wrong to sort of stack the expression that way? Yeah, doesn't help. Not an adult URL browser. Okay, so let's go to filter adult, the module. Where is it? Filter adult. So dump actually calling the real filter adult, because that'd be a problem. We're not actually calling the stubbed. Checking. So we're calling the stub, right? Unless, should I make sure that I've built? Sometimes you need to build, but only sometimes. It depends on the module. It's a little unusual. Always be suspicious. Okay, so I'm fairly confident that we're properly stubbing it out. It's just what we're passing isn't what we're expecting in this particular case. So dump expecting, and then let's see. Oh, I know why. I know why. I know why. I know why. I don't even need to look. I know why. The base domain thing. Don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. So we were, this is something that we were carrying over from the test filter adult tests, where we were making sure that the inner component was being called correctly with the base domain, but the outer component is passed just a raw URL string, not the base domain. So that was a bad assumption on my part, or this is like a copy paste error. So instead, we should expect the actual test URL, and this. Let's see if that works. Hey-oh, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, now we'll put this back. And let's get rid of all of our dump logging. Are there any other... Is there any other dumping? No. So we can now run the whole test file. This should pass. Incredible. Okay, so now let's squash this into this. Yeah, we'll squash into that. And now the other thing I'll do is I'm going to see whether or not the cargo.toml file has changed recently since I touched any of this. Have we vendored in any other stuff? 9b46. LQ, JJ show LQ. Was that 9b46? Okay, that's good. So that hasn't changed, so we should be able to just straight up rebase this, I think. JJ rebase B filter adult onto main add origin. This should rebase cleanly. No. Okay, so we're gonna have to regenerate the bindings. That's fine. JJ new SK mock unify generate. Oh, something went wrong. Found 2 callables in module filter dealt without explicit async sync configuration in config.toml. Please add these callables to the config. So maybe a new requirement came in. All right. Filter adult dot async wrappers. And neither of these are async wrapped. They should be sync. These are both sync calls. So let's see if it's happy with that now. Okay. So now we'll squash that in. And now, I mean, I'm gonna want to do a local build and make sure all this works before, and then push it up for review again. I've changed some things. Okay. Well, that's that. We solved the test failure. We figured out what was going wrong. The TLDR is I forgot to update a test that was still using the old way of testing filter adult. I'm pretty sure there aren't any more. Filter adult.add domain to list. It was just these two. I forgot this one. My bad. Let's see if there are any removed. That'd be really strange. Yeah, it's the same. It's all good. It's all good. So that's done. We're just gonna wait for this to build eventually and we can run the test. But in the meantime, I'm thinking we can move on. So TLDR test was using the old add domain to list remove domain from list methods, updated to use sign on stubbing instead. Okay. So this HNT, which stands for Home and New Tab, that's this thing, which has also been getting a lot of, oh, brutal. I just found out Brian Wilson's dead. Oh, that's super sad. That's super sad. Really, really, like, I'm no like Beach Boys expert or anything, but I know Brian Wilson was pretty important to pop music. So that's a real bummer. Yeah, pouring out for Brian Wilson. There's a band from Canada that you may have heard of called the Bare Naked Ladies, and they have a song called Brian Wilson, which is not by Brian Wilson, it's by the Bare Naked Ladies. And that was my first introduction, believe it or not, to Brian Wilson. It was not his work, but a song about him. He's so important that a band wrote a song about him. And then I got introduced to the Beach Boys and Pet Sounds and, you know, Good Vibrations and all that stuff. And yeah, there's a movie, Love and Mercy, and you know, a bunch of documentaries and whatnot. Like, he's very, you know, it wasn't an easy life, it sounds like. There's a lot of pain and a lot of suffering, but also the artwork that came out from this guy was unbelievable. The artistry and the care and the craft. I'm like an amateur musician, and I can only sort of get the surface layer of the sort of the genius of the construction of his music, but there's some powerful creativity there. All right, so this is a new tab. This is a home and new tab, and what you're seeing here is something that will eventually be rolling out, which is called groups, or sections, which allows us to sort of like break things down into sections, and then you can sort of like pick and choose the stuff that you might find interesting to add, and you can eventually move it up and down, we hope. And we're also, let's see here, what else are we doing? We've got the background thing happening, but the background's the one I wanted to talk about, the background image. So some people were doing some pretty neat stuff with the background images. Let me show you something. Let me open something in the a patch over here, but let's also open up something that got forwarded to me because I work on the new tab team. I didn't work directly on the backgrounds project, but I was working with the people who were working on backgrounds, and I was giving them some guidance and whatnot. This is something that someone posted on Reddit, and this is someone's very interesting background image, because apparently you can, and we kind of knew this, but we didn't really intend for this, but we knew that it was possible. You can have animated images in the background. So this person is demonstrating that. Oh, and there's music. I'm gonna silence that. But look, you've got this animated GIF background. I don't know what the resolution is. I can't really tell from this YouTube video. Let me full screen it. I don't know what's compression artifacts and what's not. There's like I don't know if that's dithering. It's really interesting though. And the fact that it's mostly black, white, and grayscale probably helps with some of the compression here. But like it's fairly smooth animation. It's pretty neat. I mean, I would find that deeply distracting if I opened up a new tab and this thing was cooking. You know, this is what's showing up. But that's happening, and this is like a full 4-minute video. That's a lot of frames. Okay, I'm gonna stop it there. Now the problem is that we have this perceived performance optimization in Firefox. Yeah, but it's cool. It is cool. It is very cool, and I love that you can do that. And if you want to have a vibrant, animated new tab background, you go for it. You go. But the problem is that there's this performance optimization. Let me try and explain. So I'll explain by opening up a new tab, and then I'm going to explain by opening up another new tab. And I want you to watch carefully. Now, this is going to be difficult, I think, to communicate because of the screen resolution and because of the, compression, frame rate and whatnot. But I'll note that when I open a new tab and a new tab is visible, it's seamless. It is seamless. I am not aware of any other browser for which it is seamless. We have designed it to be seamless, where opening a new tab feels light and instantaneous. And this was a thing we worked pretty hard on. Sometimes you get a little bit of flicker. If you open up a lot of them, suddenly you'll start to see it loading. You'll start to see it tearing a little bit like that. And that's because the page is getting itself set up. But we've got like a background one kind of preloaded, just sitting there. And when you open it in like most cases, it doesn't flicker, it doesn't flash. It is instant in the majority of cases. It's only when you stress it, that's when you start to see it. Like that. So that performance optimization is controllable with a pref, and one of the optimizations, this is what we would call a perceived performance optimization, where we're not actually making anything in particular faster. We're just doing a little bit of sleight of hand, an illusion to make something feel faster. And we're trading resources for time. Specifically, we are preloading the next new tab in the background, and then whenever you open a new tab, we instantly switch to it. And it's more than just preloading it. We're pre-painting it. We're pre-rendering it, which means our graphics subsystem already has the drawing commands. It's just been told to hide them. And then whenever when we open a new tab, we basically just like blast the drawing commands to the GPU, and it's like instantaneous. But here's the problem. Oh, I'm getting a tea delivery. Thank you very much. Tea delivery, everybody. Here's the problem. If you have an animated background, like that really interesting one, that animated video background, like animated GIF, this means that when you do not have it in the foreground, we are drawing that video. We're drawing it, we're computing it, we're decoding it, we're putting it's all in memory, and we're like burning your CPU. We're burning your CPU for no reason, because you're not seeing it. It's just kind of like cooking there, so that by the time you open up a new tab, it's like instantaneous. And that has been so far a fine-ish trade. We've been comfortable with that trade. But now that people are starting to use like big images and animated images, now we have a actual resource performance problem, like a resource usage problem. And problems like that demand solutions. Now, this isn't the first time that this has been brought up to the team. It's only that the fact that the animated backgrounds people are getting excited about them, that has been brought to our attention that we might want to fix this sooner rather than later. Our performance team has been aware of this problem for a while, specifically because whenever you have a new tab preloaded like that in the background, when you resize the window, it's resizing and redrawing the invisible one in the background too, which is needless effort. It's needless work. Don't need it. So there are a couple of options. I mean, the first one is you lower the frame rate. You drop the frame rate right down of the background, the preloaded tab. That's like the first thing that comes to mind. But then you're still, even if you drop it to like 1 frame a second, then you're gonna get sort of this jolt whenever you want to like instantaneous tab opening. Then you also have to send the signal of like, okay, now start animating at 60 FPS, and there's the risk of there being like a little bit of delay. So all of a sudden you've got this sort of like stickiness in the bad way of the background maybe missing some frames or seeming like it's locked up for a couple of hundreds of milliseconds or dozens of milliseconds, and that's a bad user experience. We work really, really hard, believe it or not, to make Firefox look and feel fast. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. We're squeezing as much performance as we can out of this thing, and we have to balance making it operate as quickly as possible, but also using as few resources as possible, when oftentimes those things are at odds with one another. This is a perfect example of where resource usage is at odds with perceived or real performance. So that's the problem. If you have any questions about that problem, feel free to drop them in the chat. Still building. We're in modules, though. That's good. We're past DOM and layout. So this will probably be done in the next 5 minutes. Then we can run our test locally and push it up to back up for review. We're going to need to get that test change reviewed. So what is the solution? Well, lowering the frame rate is one idea. I came up with another one. And at the time, this was back whenever we were talking about the resizing window issue. At the time, this was what, March, not that long ago. So a couple months ago. And since then, the animated background thing has started to happen. And so it's been brought to my attention again. And this solution, which at the time seemed kind of complicated, may be worth it. And let me explain. I'll read out the comment, and I haven't read it in a while. Oh, Smurf D is saying, so you're saying you can't pause the animation until it's visible? You risk stutter? No, we can pause it. We can lock the frames. But whenever you foreground the new tab, we also have to tell it to start decoding and tell it to start rendering again. And there's the opportunity there for stutter to exist. Now we could test that. That is a thing. That's one of the things we should test. We should definitely test this. So we might want to generate an animated GIF background image and test the low frame rate problem just before we go too deep on anything more sophisticated. But we should test that. But this was the sort of the overarching solution I was kind of mulling over. Quote, so I've thought about this a bit more, and it seems to me like the flicker that I'm noticing in the video. So I was concerned about flicker, where if you disable the preloading, the pre-rendering of the background tab, so we still preload the DOM, but we don't pre-render it like with the drawing instructions. But I was noticing that there was flicker. In fact, I posted some videos in this. Here, I'll put links to the discussion here in the notes. Discussion over a possible fix. It seems to me like the flicker that I'm noticing in the videos I posted are really only perceivable when opening a new tab from an existing new tab. When switching from about blank to a new tab, since there's a full viewport context change, the flicker is less apparent. In the last video, it's harder to detect the flicker when changing from about blank. So I wonder if what we can do here is only have the preloaded new tab render if an existing new tab is in the foreground. If it ever navigates away or another new tab reaches the foreground, we tell the preloaded new tab to throw away its layers. Or sorry, another non-about new tab reaches the foreground. We tell the preloaded new tab to throw away its layers. We get to keep our perceived performance optimization for the admittedly edge casey situation where a person is opening a new tab from a pre-existing new tab, but it's likely will not have to pay the cost for that optimization for the more common case of having something else in the foreground. If that's acceptable, what I'd recommend is that we move the logic for rendering the preloaded new tab into the new tab page preloading module and out of activity stream message channel. Add listeners to new tab page preloading that lets it watch the state of G-Browser for any window that has a preloaded new tab. If the foreground tab ever changes to new tab, it should attempt to set render layers equals true on any existing preloaded new tab in that window. In all other cases, it should set render layers equals false on any preloaded new tab in that window. What do you think, Emilio? And then Emilio goes, I mean, maybe, but I'd rather do this. By this, he means disable pre-rendering altogether and avoid messing with render layers altogether, because otherwise it's going to be fun diagnosing performance issues that show up only if there's a new tab page visible or some such. And then I started talking to some performance people about it, and I don't think it really went anywhere. Sorry, product people about it. It didn't really go anywhere. But now it's kind of like coming to a head again. But let's talk about lowering the frame rate. Like, is that possible? Maybe. It might be possible to drop the refresh driver, drop the frequency of the refresh driver. That's the thing that causes paints to occur at a certain frequency on a particular page. We could look into that. So let's look. Refresh driver. Frames, restyle, generation, ask permission, frame rate. Effectively throttles frame requests. Returns true if we are effectively throttling frame requests. What does that mean? Spend by browser context group. Effectively throttling frame requests. Is rendering suppressed or should throttle frame requests? So we have a rendering suppression and throttling. Should throttle frame requests. We have painting suppressed, under hidden embedder. We have layout throttle in process iframes. Is under hidden embedder element. For display none and visibility hidden, we always throttle. If hidden or no pres shell, or the pres shell is not active, which is generally the case. Pres shell is not active in the event that we stop rendering. So that's effectively throttling. Well, let's try it then. Let's get an animated GIF. Let's find animated GIF background image. Let's find one. Let's find something that's got like a decent looking frame rate. Something that would allow us to detect jank. This is pretty good. But I'm looking for something with a consistent speed. Maybe this one. That is very hypnotic. Maybe too hypnotic. This might be nice. I like this. Okay, let's do this one. Just take this, download. Ugh. Oh, I guess I do have a Giphy account. Okay. An email address? No. No. Let's find another one. Free animated background GIF. Or background image. Background image. Free animated background image. I need image. Or how about WebM? Free animated WebM background. Let's see these. That's hilarious. Is this a WebM? See, I need something that's like royalty free. Royalty free. Doesn't have to be high quality. Does Unsplash do animated? Are any of these animated? I guess not. If anyone has any... Oh, free loop stock video footage from Videezy. This is just for testing. And I really hope I don't see anything deeply inappropriate, to be clear. Okay. License info. Okay, we'll look at the license info of each, but I just need to find just the right thing. Not too nauseous making. Perfect. License info. Free for personal and commercial use. Attribution, if I'm using it on the web. I'm not. I'm just using this for testing. This artist's name is Raymond. I'm going to plug Raymond. This is some attribution. Raymond is the artist for our testing background image. Yeah, sorry, a few eternity later. Yeah, my bad. Sorry, this is taking a while to get the download. So, is this gonna let me just do it? Ugh. Okay. Okay. Now this is an MP4. It's a 119 meg MP4. Am I gonna be able to do that? That's not something that we can I need to turn an MP4 into a WebM. MP4 into WebM. With FFmpeg. Convert an MP4 to WebM. Poor results. Try with this. Okay. So let me find the file. Just one sec. Oop-a-doop. We're gonna put this in projects. I'll copy the path. Okay. Copy into there, and then we're gonna say this FFmpeg ALB city. Our build is done, by the way, so we can come back to that. Ooh, there's a spammer. Feel free to kick them. CV, copy the video codec, I think. No, or is that saying codec video, use that. Frame rate, 128K, libopus for audio. There is no audio. WebM. All right, let's see what this does. How long is this going to take? Oh my goodness. How long is this video? It's 20 seconds. Okay, so we're almost halfway done. So it's gone down by quite a bit. The original video was like 100 and some odd megs. Now we're down to 17 megs ish. This is just for a personal test too. Like I'm not. Oh boy. All right, so let's run. We can also after this we'll run our test. So let's upload an image. Projects, Firefox, output. .webm. It won't accept output.webm. What if I renamed it? Move output.webm to output.jpg. Also doesn't accept it. What would it accept? There it is. Will it accept it? You know what? I think it needs to be a GIF, gang. I don't think it can be a WebM. All right. So let's see. Animated GIF background. Royalty free. Free background GIFs. And will this allow me to do this without getting an account? I want something with decent frame rate. There, perfect. Free for use under Pixabay content license. Download, GIF. Let's do the low res one. No, we'll do the higher res one. Okay, so this artist, that's this artist, Julius H. Julius H. All right. So now I think I should be able to just go like upload an image, then I'll bring this one over to here and open. There we go. Check it out. Pretty cool. Now, if I turn off the background rendering, we'll do that next. So the way that works is inside of activity, stream, message channel, render layers. We're going to disable that. Whoop. So what we're looking for is whether or not we see any kind of stickiness. What? Why are you doing this full build again? What are you doing? Artifact. Oh, it thinks I'm in artifact mode. So I'm in the wrong terminal, that's why. Okay, mock build faster. So I was in the wrong terminal. Okay, here we go. So here we go. There it is, animating. So that's with it on. Okay. And now let's put it back. It's smoother, certainly. It's certainly smoother. Does it accept SVG? I think it does. So we could like make an SVG image, yeah. Maybe. I think it's certainly smoother. but primarily not because of the backgrounds, but because of the fading, like the loading of these images. But the whole thing does flash sometimes, which is unfortunate. The whole thing flashes if I have it off. Let's go back to off. The images don't redraw as much, exactly. There's more going on. So it's like... Now maybe we could disable the fading in of the images. If we can disable the fading in of the images, maybe that's enough to be I mean, that one wasn't so good. But if you can... And I think the fading in of the images is being caused by... code that assumes that because we're invisible, we're going to enter a code path where we lazily load the images. Like, you'll notice that if these fade-ins occur if I do it quickly, but if I let it sit, then in the background, the preloaded one is filling those in at a lower sort of like intensity so that they're all loaded for the next image load. The next load, but there is that flicker. But this is the point I wanted to make, is if you go from, say, mozilla.org and then hit Control T, it is much less jarring. The context switch is so huge that you don't actually see the flicker. Or if you're at, like, I don't know, what's another important website? Facebook? Yeah, that seems instantaneous. It's really only when you're opening a new tab on top of a new tab that you see it. And maybe that's just an edge case. But that sort of lazy image loading, I think. So I think I kind of... I think I'm starting to get closer to wanting to do this, having our cake and eating it too, disabling the optimization unless a new tab is in the foreground. How about some about config to new tab? Yeah, we could add a about config flag. That ends up being another thing to... I mean, certainly were we to want to test this, we'd do it that way, but about config flags are a one way in which we might try something that we're not sure about, and then when we're more sure, then we'll remove the config flag so that we don't have to maintain support for the other... No, I mean, try to go from about config. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's find out. About config. Let's wait for those images to load. Give it a little more time. All right, now. I don't know why some of the images aren't loading in time, like that time, but it doesn't seem as flickery to me, just for my own personal testing. The big context switch, I think the human brain just kind of goes like, oh, it'll sort of gloss over all of the, like, it's doing a full-blown context switch of the content area. So I think the brain's a little more forgiving. Whereas opening the same thing on top of the same thing, your brain is immediately noticing the differences. It's like the primitive part of the brain that's looking for the tiger in the jungle, you know? It's like, what's different? What's the spot the difference kind of a thing? and the brain is hyper tuned to that. All right. Well, or you blink. That's true. Maybe we could just have everyone blink when they open new tabs. That's an idea. All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to restore that change. I'm going to run the filter adult test just to get that squared away, and we can post that up for review. .js. Dan Colon with a blink joke. Good job. And then test that the test that was failing before passes. Then we'll do one final manual test. Filter adult. Oh, I have to was it? Let filter adult Chrome details import ES module resource GGG modules filter adult sys.js. Filter adult is adult URL https://mikeconley.ca false xx.com true. Okay, it works. Let's go ahead and post this up for review. Check out. I have to still do this for MozFab. I have to use Git. But I'm really, really happy with Jujitsu. Submit. Rebase. Fix test failure. And update unify config.toml. Now, why that config.toml thing, when did that get introduced? Because I should mention it. Excuse me. Trait interface support. Like, when did this stuff come in? Make thread config not optional. June 9th, 2 days ago. Okay. So I should refer to that. Yeah, for bugs such and such. Post that up for review. Done. So now we need a places reviewer here, but the other ones are good to go. So hopefully a places reviewer comes by, signs off on this. Just see if who's in this. Yeah, these people. I might have to wait till tomorrow. Some of these people are probably past their end of day in the UK or something. All right. Well, that's done. Let's keep thinking about this performance optimization. I don't think we're going to get any actual code for it written, but let's think a little bit more. So how would it work? In my original... diagnostic performance issues. Well, so we looked at throttling. It looks like the throttling stuff that we were looking at is like full suspension. I'm wondering if there's just a way of lowering the frame rate. Refresh driver .cpp. refresh rate. Each presentation shell gets its own rate. So maybe I can control it from script. Driver. Set rate. Because I know we also use like vsync that listens to vsync. We throw a refresh after we get too many vsync events and wait to catch up again. It's like lower frame rate. Is there like tests or anything that change the frame rate? Video. Not really. I know I can globally change the frame rate. What's exposed? So let's go back to NSI DOM window utils. That's one thing. The other thing I want to look at is NSI pres shell. Is any of that exposed? Base pres shell. Document viewer layout history state preload style sheet reflow callback style sheet service. Is there anything in our privileged web IDL that lets me set the frame rate? Capture stream for canvas, media capabilities, the frame rate on media capabilities, that's different. Media stream tracks, RTC stuff, video encoder, WebXR, not quite. Okay. So then, oh, I wanted to look at NSI DOM window utils again. This is one of the ways that we get like extra powers on stuff from script. This, when set to don't anim, all images will stop animating. The attributes value must be one of the animation mode. Oh, that's interesting. Images may individually override the Windows setting after the Windows mode is set. Therefore, images given different modes since the last setting of the Windows mode may behave out of line with the Windows overall mode. The attributes value is the Windows overall mode. It may, for example, continue to report don't anim mode. So that's interesting. We might be able to pause the animation for this particular case. That might be enough to reduce the impact to resources. It doesn't solve the flicker or the sort of underlying resource problem, but it may solve the initial one that I was mentioning. Send mouse events. These are just ways of sending test events. Key events. Suppress animations that are applied to a window by OS when resizing, moving, changing size. Right. I think I added. Did I add that? No. That is more like the actual outer window, not the content suppressing its animation. Gesture nodes from rec and translation nodes. Suppress event handling. Get balance that flush and get widget opaque region. Flush layout without throttle. Flush pending layout type notification without flushing throttled animations. So animations can be throttled. That's good. Selected text. Screen exit full screen. Select that point. Enter model state. The in model state. Suspend timeouts. Preferred sample rate for audio. Start frame time recording. Refresh. Restore normal refresh. Advanced allows the caller to take over the refresh driver timing for a window. Woo, this might be it. Call to advanced time and refresh does three things. It marks the refresh driver for this presentation so that it no longer refreshes on its own, but is instead driven entirely by the caller, except for the refresh that happens when a document comes out of the BF cache. It advances the refresh driver's current refresh time by the argument given. It does a refresh at that new time. Note that this artifact affects other connected dock shells of the same type in the same dock shell tree, such as parent frames. When callers have completed their use of advanced time refresh, they must call restore normal refresh. That's interesting. That is very interesting. It seems like this is mainly used for testing. That's probably not the best thing to use for our particular case. Let's look. Yeah, I think this is mainly used for testing. We probably don't want to use this. Reports where the current state is test-controlled refreshes. Yeah, so this is meant for testing. Okay. Should respect that. Respect. Returns for paint suppressed for this window. Chaos mode, respect display port suppression. Okay, for testing. Well, let's take a quick look at this thing that was at the top. Image animation mode. Don't anim mode. Can I even use these from image eye container? Do I have access to that? Let's try something. Let's try a thing. So we've got our animated background here. Let's open up the browser toolbox. Let's do multi-process. Let's get into the content area. Top inside of the privileged about content process, tabs, 0. Content dot body, content document dot body. That's that one. Okay, good. What I'm gonna say is dot window utils. Okay, so there's your DOM window utils, and I'm gonna say animation mode, image animation mode. It's currently 0, so these are constants. And ci dot, what is it? Image I container dot okay, don't anim. Okay, so it's 1. So I'm going to set its image animation mode. Let's watch the animation in the background here. Let's see if it changes to don't anim mode. Ready? Enter. So it pauses. And if I come back, it's still paused. And then, okay, normal animation mode. It'll resume. So that's an option. We can force the backgrounds to not animate while it's in the background. And then when it gets foregrounded, we resume them. How hard would that be to... Let's see if we can sort of hack that out. Browser render layers is true. We have to do this in the content process. That's kind of annoying. New tab child. Handle event init. Preloaded. Content loaded. Visible. Don't show notification on permanent browser. So what? Here's a really dumb test. Is here I'll go this dot content window dot window utils dot image animation mode equals don't animate. And then down here I'll make it animate. Okay, normal animation mode. This is very silly. I don't know. I do not love this, but let's check it out. You know how I know it's working? Because all of the new tab animations are starting at the same time. That works. That works. So that's an idea. That's an idea. All right, let me mull that over. I think I'm going to call it there, though. We've got our patch up for review for this stuff. Waiting on a Places reviewer to get back to us. But we will figure out what to do about... You know what? Check in. This is something I might work on even when I'm not streaming. So I'll give you an update on where I ended up next week. All right, I'm going to call it there. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching episode 405 of The Joy of Coding. Let me know what you thought. You can rate this episode using this form, and you can also use this as an opportunity to ask me questions. Excuse me, you can send questions in with the form, and I'll do my best to try and answer them on the stream, presuming I have the answers. I don't always have the answers, but I can put the form in here, and you can ask. Link to the Rate This Episode form. There it is. I just dropped it in the chat. It's also here in the agenda. Let me know what you thought. I love to hear it, and I read everything that comes in. All right, well, thanks, everybody. I hope you have yourselves a great week, and we'll see you next week with episode 406. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.